Only in Kentucky could one small county kickstart the state's first industry with a salt lick, help inspire the nation's Superfund law, and still find time to make bourbon, wine, and go-karts. Hi, I'm Michael. I want to teach you a little bit more about Kentucky. One county at a time. All 120 of them. And today we're talking about Bullitt County. Bullitt County came to life in 1797, taken from Jefferson and Nelson counties, and named for Alexander Scott Bullitt, Kentucky's first lieutenant governor. His uncle, Captain Thomas Bullitt, had surveyed this ground decades earlier, making a salt spring that would define the county's story. That place, Bullitt's Lick. Before there was even a county, there were herds of buffalo and hunters following mineral licks through the wilderness. By the 1770s, Thomas Bullitt had surveyed the area, and in the 1780s, settlers built a small empire out of boiling brine. Salt was worth its weight in silver on the frontier. Hundreds of men cut wood, hauled water, tended kettles that steamed day and night. Wagon trains hauled the finished product to the Ohio River, where flatboats carried it west. For a time, Bullitt's Lick was the state's economic heart. Of course, it was also dangerous work. In 1788, a group of salt makers, among them a young Henry Christ, were ambushed in what became known as the Battle of the Kettles. Christ barely escaped, but he came back, rebuilt, and eventually served the county in the state legislature and in Congress. Around him, the frontier hardened into settlement. In 1779, Brashear Station, later called the Salt River Garrison, went up to guard the Salt Road. And by 1793, entrepreneur Adam Shepherd laid out a riverside town that became Shepherdsville, now the county seat. By 1800, more than 3,000 people called Bullitt home. James Turner Moorhead, born here that same year, would become Kentucky's first native-born governor. The salt industry faded by the 1830s as steamboats brought in cheaper salt, but Bullitt's knack for reinvention had already kicked in. In 1838, a new kind of enterprise opened just outside of Shepherdsville, Paroquet Springs. It was a resort built around mineral water said to cure everything from gout to heartbreak. Visitors arrived by stagecoach and riverboat to dance, gamble, and take the waters in. After the Civil War, the resort reopened with a grand hotel that could host 800 guests. It burned in 1879, leaving behind only its legend and a lone grave marker. Today, the Paroquet Springs Conference Center sits on that same ground. The railroad era followed fast. By the 1850s, the Louisville and Nashville line cut through Bullitt County. Shepherdsville became a stop and a new town. Lebanon Junction grew where the line split south. Trains brought prosperity and a new connection to the outside world. The Civil War divided Bullitt County like much of Kentucky. Neighbors chose opposite sides. In 1862, Confederate cavalry tried 3 times to blow up the Salt River Railroad Bridge at Shepherdsville and failed all 3 times. Raids and guerrilla skirmishes spread chaos across the countryside, and one local, Henry Magruder, turned outlaw and inspired the infamous Sue Mindy stories before being executed in 1865. In 1890, the Eckstein Norton Institute opened near Cane Spring. It was one of Kentucky's first schools for African-American students. It trained teachers, craftsmen, and musicians, and its all-black faculty built one of the earliest music programs of its kind in the United States. Though the school later merged into Lincoln Institute, its influence stretched far beyond Bullitt County. On December 20th, 1917, 2 trains collided in Shepherdsville, killing 49 people. It was the deadliest wreck in Kentucky history. The courthouse became a temporary hospital, and some say a lady in lace still haunts its stairs today. Just before World War II, Fort Knox expanded eastward, annexing about 40,000 acres of Bullitt County. Whole communities relocated as farmland turned into federal training ground. Even today, roughly 1/50 of the entire county sits behind the Fort Knox fence line. Progress, of course, has a darker side. In the 1960s, a valley near Brooks became an open dump for industrial barrels, thousands of them. Locals called it the Valley of the Drums. The leaking waste site became national news and helped inspire the Superfund cleanup law of 1980. Cleanup took years, but the episode pushed environmental regulation onto the national stage. The post-war years reshaped Bullitt yet again. The Kentucky Turnpike opened in 1956, later absorbed into I-65, linking Louisville to Elizabethtown straight through the county. Suburbs followed the asphalt. Hillview, Pioneer Village, Hebron Estates, and Mount Washington swelled as commuters looked for space and cheaper land. In the 1970s alone, Bullitt's population jumped by more than 60%. By the 2020 census, about 82,000 people lived there. That growth didn't just bring rooftops, it reshaped daily life. Bullitt County evolved from a farm and factory economy into a commuter hub for the Louisville Metro. Industrial parks rose along I-65, but so did schools, libraries, and arts programs. With people came business. Distribution hubs lined the interstate, but bourbon remained the county's signature. Before Prohibition, the Beam family, Jim Beam, made bourbon under the name Old Tub. It was whiskey sold right out of the barrel in Nelson County. That distillery built a solid local reputation, but when Prohibition began in 1920, the distillery shut down and fell into ruin. By the time alcohol was legal again, the old operation was certainly beyond saving. But, Jim Beam was 70 when the ban ended in 1933, and despite that, he wasn't ready to let the family business die. He bought land in Claremont, a spot in northern Bullitt County with clean limestone water, real access, and proximity to both Bardstown and Louisville. In just 4 months, with help from family and friends, and some hired help, he built the new distillery from scratch and fired it up in 1934. And as many of you know, that Claremont site is still running today. It's where every bottle of Jim Beam, Knob Creek, and Basil Hayden is made. Yet surprisingly, the county is also a wine region. Whitemeyer, Brooks Hill, Millanova, Forest Edge, those are wineries anchoring Bullitt's wine, whiskey, and ale trail, pouring everything from sweet blackberry blends to dry Cabernets. It's the rare place you can tour a bourbon still in the morning and sip a local Merlot by afternoon. Those wineries have collected medals at regional competitions, drawing weekend travelers from all over who want a little bit quieter alternative to Bardstown's bourbon traffic. Bullitt County's landscape still mixes commerce and quietness. Bernheim Forest, a 16,000-acre preserve founded in 1929 by philanthropist Isaac Bernheim, has hiking trails, outdoor art, like forest giant sculptures, and on weekends families fill the arboretum, trail runners log miles, and visitors drive from across the state to see the Kentucky's colors change season to season. It's really pretty this time of year. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, Shepherdsville Kart Country still claims the world's longest go-kart track, a 1.5-mile loop of pure chaos, and it's right off the interstate. In 2004, bizarre crime at McDonald's in Mount Washington made national headlines and later inspired a film. A man posing as a police officer called the restaurant, claiming an employee had stolen from a customer. Following his instructions over the phone, McDonald's managers detained and strip searched an 18-year-old worker for hours, unaware they were being manipulated by a stranger on the phone hundreds of miles away. Investigators later connected the call to a Florida man named David Stewart, accused of making similar hoax calls to restaurants across the country. Though he was acquitted for lack of direct evidence, the Mount Washington case exposed a psychological manipulation so strange that it became the subject of documentaries and the 2012 film Compliance. So, that's so Bullitt County. What'd I get wrong this time? And as always, credit where credit is due. Shout out to bullittcountyhistory.org for helping me out with a lot of that information.